In this demo, I'm going to walk through some of the queries in Chapter 5 in our textbook and also go through the demo queries that are included with your practice work. Let's start by looking at some of the textbook problems. When you read the problems in the textbook, you see that they are open to interpretation, but there are answers that are within the files that are on your CD. So I just simply went in and looked at them in Access, made a decision as to what they were trying to do, and then translated it into SQL. So we're going to start with the first one, and the first one says, what if we adjusted each product price by reducing it 5%? So what we want is we want the product number, the wholesale price times 0.95, or you could take the wholesale price and subtract from it the wholesale price times 0.5. But it needs to be 0.95 or 0.05. You can't use 95% or 5%. I'm going to give it an alias. That's going to be the adjusted price, and I'm going to pull that from product vendors. So you can see what it looks like here, and I'm just going to select it and run it. As you can see, I've already selected the sales order example. And just to make more room on my screen, I'm going to close the Properties window. If I want that back, I can go to View, Properties window. So that's how I get it back. So I'll just grab this and run it. And we have the product number, the wholesale price, and the adjusted price. So now I'm just going to walk through and show you how I did this one. I'm going to start by typing in the keyword select. Then I'm going to find my fields, and they're in the product vendors table. So I'm going to go to sales order example, and I can't really see the names of my fields here very well. I can hover over, there we go, product vendors. And I'm going to go ahead and bring this out a little bit so I can see better. And my columns, and I want product number, and I can drag and drop that in, comma, wholesale price, comma, then wholesale price times 0.95 as, and I'm going to give it an alias here, and that alias is adjusted price, and I'm going to pull that from my product vendors table. And notice I let my mouse just hover there for a while, and you notice that the red squiggly lines disappeared from under product number, wholesale price, and wholesale price. That's because SQL recognized those fields as now belonging to this table. So I'm going to go ahead and grab these, and I'm going to execute, and I get the same amount. And I'm going to show you a slightly different way to do the same query. I'm going to start again with my select, and before I put the fields in, I'm going to go down to From, and I'm going to pull the table in. Now I could start typing the name of the field. Here's product number, wholesale price. Because Access, I normally teach Access. Because SQL Server knows the name of the table, it recognizes which fields belong to that table. And again, wholesale price times 0.95 as adjusted price. We'll grab this and run it. We get the same thing. Now, what if we don't want to see all of these places past the decimal point? What could we do with it? Well, let's try converting it to money and adding the round function. I'm going to add the same fields, and I'm going to add the convert function. It's a built-in function. You saw it in the video that you viewed on Cast and Convert. I'm going to convert the integer, is what I would create, to money. I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places, and I'm going to name it adjusted price. So let's grab this and see how it runs. So it's looking a little better. Now I have 2 places past the decimal point. So now let's take a look at a couple others here. And how about vendor names and addresses by vendor name? I want from the vendors table, vendor name, vendor street address. Now I'm going to concatenate these. So I'm going to have vendor street address plus single quote, comma, space, single quote, plus the name of the city, plus single quote, comma, space, plus the name of the state, or the state field, plus single quote, space, single quote. No comma between state and zip code. And I'm going to show this as vendor address. I'm going to pull it from the vendors table, and I'm going to order it by vendor name. Since I haven't specified a sort, it's going to sort ascending in alphabetical order. So let's grab this and run it. So I have my vendor name and my vendor address. You see the comma, space, space. So how would we do this? I'll just type in part of it to give you the idea. So I'm going to type in select, and using the vendor table, bring in vendor name, comma, vendor street address, plus apostrophe. I pressed the apostrophe, but nothing happened. Now when I press the comma, you'll see the comma and the apostrophe. Space, apostrophe, you see nothing. I press the space bar, now I see the apostrophe, or the single quote. And I'll press my space bar again and bring in vendor city. Now I forgot something, didn't I? I have to add another plus. So it's going to be plus the comma space plus the vendor city plus, and I need to do this all again. And one easy way to do it is I could actually grab this and copy and paste it, so I don't have to retype it every time. That is a possibility for you. And bring this in again and paste in that plus and space and bring in the zip code. And there is another option for how you can do this. Since this one is not complete and will give me an error if I run it, I'm just going to take it out. Next, we'll take a quick look at an example in the entertainment database, the entertainment agency. So in order to run my examples, I must first use the entertainment agency example. I can use the use statement, or I could use my drop-down list. I like to put the use statement in simply because it reminds me as I go from one problem to the next that I'm changing databases. I could also use a comment. I'll execute. I've changed databases, and now we're going to look at customers by city. Again, if you're looking at the questions in the textbook, you're wondering now, why is she concatenating some of these? I don't see in the textbook where it tells me to concatenate. That's because what we're learning in this chapter is how to concatenate. So when you see opportunities like this, use them. So I'm going to have customer city, last name, comma, first name as customer, and I'm going to order by customer city. So let's see how this one looks. So I have the name of the city, I have the customer's last name, comma, space, the customer's first name. Now we'll take a look at the school scheduling example. I think there's an interesting one in here to look at, so I'm going to use that database. And Let's take a look at number 3, students in order by city. I'm just going to run it to show it to you first. So what we have are the cities in alphabetical order, and within the cities we have the students in alphabetical order. So how is that done? I'll write the select statement, select school scheduling, tables, and we're going to use the students table, columns, and I'm going to take the student city, comma, student last name, and I just remembered that I happen to have kept that particular string in my clipboard so I could paste it back in. Student first name, alias as, student name from the students table, and I'm going to order by student city, and I'm also going to order by this field that I created, student name. And as I start to type it in, SQL Server recognizes that field, and so I can use it. I'll go ahead and select these and we'll execute. The last one I'm going to look at is a bowling league example. And it's very similar to the one that we just wrote. The listing of the teams lineup, I'm going to go ahead and select it and execute. Same thing, we have the teams in order, and within each team we have the bowlers in order. So it's done the same way. Now let's take a look at a couple of your practice exercises. In the practice exercises, we're going to be using the AdventureWorks database, and I can select it from the drop-down list, and this is the AdventureWorks LT 2012 database. That's the one that we want to be using. Or I can write a use statement. So what we want to do is practice a little bit more of the concatenation. So we're going to select the last name, comma, first name is full name. So I'm going to go ahead and select that, execute. And what happened there? Invalid object name, sales LT, custom. That happens once in a while when you select one of your statements. I often will forget the last letter, or I'll somehow miss it. So I'll just look at it. It tells me right there what's wrong or where it's at. Execute it again. And we have the last name, comma, first name. And now what we want to look at is what happens when we try to put together an order number with a text string. So I'm going to grab this and run it, and we'll execute. So what does it say? It says the conversion failed when converting the varchar value order to data type integer. And so here, so we're trying to add text to a numeric value. So let's try it again. Notice now I'm casting the sales order number as a varchar 20. So I'll select it and try it again. Now what's happening? The conversion failed when converting date and or time from character string. So now it's looking at this part and this. So we'll try it again. So we've cast the sales order ID as a character string. Again, we have the sales order ID cast as a character string. Now we're casting the order date as a varchar. And we're able to get it to work. I really don't like the way it looks, but it gives you a good example of how if we're concatenating text with a numeric field and text with a date field, we have to do something to both of those data types that are different than text. So we converted the sales order to text and the date to text. Now this is explained in the video on cast and convert. SQL Server uses the convert function in place of cast. Now SQL Server does use cast. So as our book says, if you're going to be working in other databases, it's important to know how to use cast. The difference between cast and convert is that the expressions go, or the arguments go, in a different order, and the convert function has a style attribute. So let's take a look at these. Here's the cast. Take a look at the date. And here's the convert. And we'll look at the date. Let's see what the difference is. So we're using a order date 1, which is a style. And the styles are posted in there's a link to them in your class site, and you can go online or you can go to help and look at the styles. So let's go back and look at some numeric functions. We did some of these already. We're going to select product ID, name, list price times 1.1 as future price. Let's go ahead and execute it. So we have the ID, the name, the list price, and the future price. Now what if we want it to look better? We can add the round function. So I'll grab this and execute it again. So we've added the round function, but what's happening? It is rounded back to 2 decimal places, but see, if we look at this, it's round. This has 3 places, actually 5, but it's rounded to 3 places past the decimal point. And when I look at this one, it's rounded to 2 places past the decimal point, but it's still showing 5 places past the decimal point. So let's try another version of this. We'll add a cast to it, and we'll execute. Now we've cast it as money, we're rounding to 2, and we're getting 2 places past the decimal point. Notice it's cast, the round function, list price, our formula, the decimal places that go with round, and as money. So let's see how SQL Server will do it. If we take convert, execute, end up with the same thing. Look at the different order here. We're going to convert money. Notice it's in a different place and it doesn't use as, comma, round. Here's what we're going to round the list price to 2 decimal places as our alias from. Let's take a look at another calculation, and we'll just do a subtraction here. So we've taken list price, standard cost, list price minus the standard cost as profit. We've created our alias, and here's our profit field. Let's take a look now at some date functions. In our date functions, we're going to select the sales order ID, the order date, the ship date. We're going to cast ship date minus order date as integer. So we're doing an interval. We're subtracting one date from another, and we're casting it as an integer. We're going to convert it basically to a number. So let's see how this one turns out. So what if we'd like this to look a little better? Let's try casting the order date as date. It's currently showing as date time. So I'm going to put cast order date as date. And let's see how this one looks. So I've eliminated the time by casting the order date as date. Let's try it as time. This is not something we want to do, but just to see how it works. Okay, so now we have only the time. So I'm going to change this back to date. And I will take and copy this, and I'm going to put it here and change this to ship date. And we'll give it a try. It's a little easier to read like that. Now I'd also need to add an alias, so we can add an alias here as order date. So there you get an idea of how to work that one. Null values. The effect of a null value. If we use a null value in a concatenation, we're going to return null. So here we've just taken first name, middle name, last name as full name. So we've taken first name, middle name, and then added an alias to last name as full name, which is really not necessary. And we have the first name, the middle initial, the last name, and where there is no middle initial, we're seeing null. Now what happens if we combine the null value in a character concatenation? So if I run it, we see that record 2 and record 5 and record 8 have a null value in the middle name. Now you see that as we concatenate them as full name, 2, 5, and 8 are showing as null. You're going to learn other ways of working with this, but let's take a look at the concat function, which is new to SQL Server 2012. And we're going to use a concat function, and we're going to convert the null value to an empty string. So you can see that I put it behind the first name, the middle name, and it's not necessary with the last name. The last name is there. And let's take a look and see how it works. So I'll select this and execute. And we see the first name, middle name, last name. We showed those so we can see which are null, and then we can see that the ones with the null, it's just showing as a space. So if I pull this out, we'll run it again, and you can see it without the 3 name fields there. And I'll go ahead and put that back. So there's one way of dealing with null values. You'll learn other ways as we move along in the course.